You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud, what women are actually talking about on Friday, the 8th of March, otherwise known as International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens. We should make a podcast with ladies on it.
We should, because I think lots of people will be doing that today.
For International Women's Day, Out Louders, we are just going to have women hosting the show and working behind the scenes. I know.
What a radical idea. Anyway, our show today is actually a little bit different, but that's because we're just tiny tweaking the format for Fridays. We want Friday's show to be fun, so we have been messing a little bit with it. Today we've got 3 recommendations for you to send you into the weekend, and we've got, of course, our best and worst, including the obligatory dog updates, self-diagnoses, and one very bad Saturday. But first, we're doing a bit of a Tell Me Everything deep dive into a big story from the week. And the big story from the week is Sam Kerr. Apparently, everyone had to form a very quick opinion about the captain of the Matildas this week, when a story dropped on Monday morning that the woman who is officially the second best female soccer player in the world, I'm going to say the universe, and officially the best soccer player Australia has ever produced of any gender, was being charged with racially aggravated harassment. For about 48 hours, that was all we knew about what had happened in Britain with Samantha Kerr. The idea that a national treasure, a West Australian whose father was born in India to an Indian father and an English mother, would be guilty of racial vilification seemed intensely out of character and kind of unthinkable, right? Everybody was just like, what? Adding to the strangeness of the story was that the incident happened more than a year ago. And after the initial hearing last week, Sam's court appearance over this issue is actually scheduled for another year away in April next year. So it's all like very confusing. And this story consumed the media for days, but nobody really knew quite what to make of it. Actually, it's worth noting that her club, Chelsea, she plays for Chelsea in the UK, didn't say anything. Her sponsors, Uber, MasterCard, Nike, she works with all these massive brands, didn't say anything.
And remember on Wednesday, because we saw this story emerging and we discussed whether we brought it to the show because it was front page news everywhere. And we made the call, actually, we don't know what she said. This is fast developing.
Yeah, it felt like half a story and there were a lot of unanswered questions.
I'm very glad that we waited.
Indeed. Some people didn't wait, of course. There were demands that she step down. People stated that there couldn't be a different set of rules for Kerr when it came to racism, neither because of her own heritage or because she has. And she has. She's actively a very strong campaigner against racism in sport. She knows plenty about what discrimination looks and feels like. And then the details dropped. So the charge relates to an incident that happened in London, where she lives, last year, January 2023. She was reportedly on a night out in Twickenham with friends and she was sick in a cab. Not cool, obviously. In an ensuing...
Have you ever been sick in a cab? Or an Uber?
I have. And I was very, very apologetic and I paid a lot of money and the person got very angry and I'm very sorry and it's unacceptable, but it has happened.
I've been with people sick in cabs, for sure. I don't know if I ever actually have.
Well, you wouldn't remember.
No, it's true.
How about you, Mia?
I haven't. Shout out to all the Uber drivers, cab drivers, because
That'd
that's
be awful.
Tricky.
Not good.
But it happens sometimes.
It does. In an ensuing altercation, she is alleged to have called a police officer a stupid white bastard. And this story is still moving quickly, which is kind of the point of what we're here to discuss, because it's worth noting that her defence team is now saying she didn't say that. They say she called the police officer a stupid white cop. They're moving to have the charges dismissed, as they probably always believed that they would. Her club has said that they're standing by her.
You know, Sam has our full support. She knows that. Yes, it's a difficult time for her, and that's what my role is in this football club, is to make sure I look after our people, and I just, want to be clear that Sam will be fully supported by me and everybody else at Chelsea.
There are 2 things I want to say about this before I open it up. One is that I have an enormous admiration for Sam Kerr. We all know how at Matilda's obsessed we all became. I'm really proud that she's captain of the Matildas.
Absolutely.
I think this charge is a despicable trumped-up nonsense. I think the much overused phrase, don't the police have anything better to do, has never been more relevant.
Correct.
And the other thing I think is that when will we learn to take a breath, right? We're guilty of it sometimes, but surely there's a lesson here that the digital world is always demanding immediacy But should we just not be rushing in with our hot takes until we know the facts?
Yes, but I think when you are a professional opinion giver, the news cycle demands a hot take on everything immediately. The danger of that is that there are some people who I read columns immediately the next day saying she needs to resign, racism is not acceptable. And during that time, a lot of people, including us, were scratching our heads and saying, this seems out of character. What did she say? Who did she say it to? What was the context? Because it just felt like the dots were not joining. And when we discovered what she did say, of course, that has sparked one part of the internet, or not just the internet, but one part of people who have said, well, if you can racially discriminate someone if she'd have used the word black, and again, this is not my view, but this is a view, then calling someone white is racism because you are vilifying them for the colour of their skin. And hey, didn't we agree that you couldn't do that? Why are there two different rules? And I think that that is an incredibly disingenuous lens through which to look at it. And I would class that as the same people who say all lives matter. Now, technically, of course, the context here is that when there's a burning house and the firefighters come, you don't say, well, all houses matter. You say, well, these two houses next door to each other, one's on fire and one's not. And so the context of racism, it's like reverse sexism. You know, if you say, oh, well, men can be sexually discriminated against as well. They can, technically. I'm aghast that this is a story and that was a charge.
In Australia, I read a column by a lawyer who said in Australia this wouldn't get to court. It would go to the Australian Human Rights Commission or something, but also that often the law sees the nuances in what racism means. And it's been said that not everything racial is racist. So yes, she used the word white, but my instinct is that racism is about pre-existing power structures.
Yes.
And when Sam Kerr, a woman of colour, is in England, the whitest of all white countries, and calls someone white,
who is a police officer,
the power imbalance there looks like I don't know how you could racially discriminate against someone white. And it made me think, you know, if I was in a context where I said, you're just a silly man, is that gender discrimination? If I say, you able-bodied dickhead, is that disability discrimination?
Exactly.
That's what it feels like. We've kind of got the status quo. I feel like this is the only story about racism that we have any license to comment on, because as white people, I can honestly say that my whiteness has never precluded me from any liberties. It's never been something that I've been oppressed for. And to have a woman who is queer, who is a person of colour, who knows what discrimination feels like, to be on trial is us all looking at each other going, this feels like utter madness, especially when in sport, if you want to look at male athletes and some of the things, and I almost understood the initial thing of, okay, we've got an athlete who has been charged with something. We've got to take this seriously. This is a discussion that's been happening for years because we've had domestic violence charges, aggravated sexual assault, rape, really serious stuff.
It almost feels threatening. And I was talking to a young woman who was saying that to me yesterday because, I mean, I can't imagine why the British police have decided to keep pursuing this charge, after a year. I can't imagine. But it feels like that woman, who is a powerful woman, a powerful gay woman of colour, who is one of the highest paid, well, certainly female footballers in the world, but one of the best paid footballers, full stop, in Britain, certainly. It's like taking her down a peg. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, we will not let you get away with this. We will show you who's in charge. Look, if she'd have punched a police person, it's a different thing, right? It's a really, really depressing story, to be honest.
I've listened, because obviously I don't have an enormous amount of context for the, UK police force. Apparently there are some real issues that are unfolding there. You shouldn't call anyone a bastard. She says she didn't.
Yeah,
whatever.
She didn't.
There are a few things there that I go, shouldn't have used that word. The white bit is the part that that doesn't feel like the bad bit.
Because you're right, it's context. Had it been reversed, and these people who are like the false equivalencies, had it been reversed, had it been a white person saying that to a black person, there is context for that. That is racial vilification because of the context and the history of black people being oppressed by white people. There's no reverse equivalent here. It is false equivalency.
And let's have a conversation about racism, even a conversation about racism in sport, because let's not forget there's a case unfolding in the NRL where allegedly there was a racial slur used against an Indigenous player. Absolutely. That player allegedly walked off the field in tears. We know from Adam Goods that sport has a racism problem.
Of course it does. And Sam Kerr's one of the people who speaks up against it.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why this story is so enormous is that Sam Kerr kind of stands for everything good, do you know what I mean, to a certain kind of Australia. And it's interesting because I don't have very high expectations for a lot of male sports people, and maybe we have unfairly high expectations for female sports people, but it just felt like surely this can't be what we're being told that it is. And indeed it wasn't. And so maybe everyone shouldn't have rushed to suggest that it was.
Mamamia out loud!
In mixing up the format, we are going to go to our recommendations of the week because we reckon that you should go into your weekend with a bunch of little treats to really keep you company, little things that you might want to buy, listen to, whatever. Mia, what's your recommendation for this week?
I don't know if mine falls under that category because it's a mammogram.
There's nothing little treaty about a mammogram, Mia.
Well, the little treat is getting your health checks so that you catch
And the relief, you feel bloody
early.
good.
Yeah, and if something is found, then you found it earlier than if you hadn't made that health appointment. So it is a good thing. It's not quite the little treat, but my goodness, you should get a little treat when you book the appointment and you should get a little treat when you have the appointment after you finished. So the reason I'm going to recommend it, apart from just get your health checks, that's my recommendation. For the last 2 years, I've had a particular type of mammogram, which is called a contrast enhanced mammogram. And I wanted to tell outlouders about it because it's being described by many as a game changer in the world of mammography. Now, I'm not a doctor. We're not giving medical advice. This is the kind of thing that you should discuss with your GP first and foremost. And of course, you need a referral, I believe, to get a mammogram. And not every clinic offers this. And also, currently, I have to say, it's not covered by Medicare. So it is still only in the private sector. There's a clinic that I go to where you get everything done in the same day. You don't have to wait for your results. And they offer it there. It costs an extra $250 and it's not part of what Medicare covers.
And how is it different
We want that to change. So
to your ordinary mammogram?
It's particularly good for women and people with dense breasts. It's a different examination. So
do you have dense breasts?
I don't. I've actually got the opposite of dense breasts, but I've got fairly young breasts, or at least I did when I started having mammograms.
She had to drop that in.
I just had
What's
to put
the
that in.
opposite of
Do you know
dense
what? I was
breasts?
thinking about,
Yeah.
I think the opposite of dense breasts is what I've got, which is,
Baggy
I
breasts?
believe, saggy breasts. I think my friend who is a breast physician said to me, they're very transparent, which I meant, do you mean they're saggy? And she's like, yes.
Yes, a little
So
bit.
it means that they're not kind of lumpy and fibrous. So they're not dense. I think that's what it means. Anyway, I know I don't have dense
to
breasts.
me, that sounds like you've got old breasts.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, no, it does. So anyway, I think you're right. Maybe
Yeah.
it's old breasts. Anyway, it means that any abnormalities can be picked up easier. So that what happens is that they put in a little cannula, a little thing like you have for a blood test.
Yeah.
You've never had a mammogram, have you,
no.
Jessie? Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you know when you're sitting there and you're about to go in the sandwich press with your buzzies and they put in this cannula and then you're sitting there and a nurse will inject a contrast dye into it.
Really?
And if anyone's had that, I believe they use this for some other tests. They said you feel a little bit of a metallic taste in your mouth and you feel like you're doing a wee in your
Oh,
pants.
yeah.
Have
I've
you had-
had that test, maybe an ECG or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
for a scan.
Yeah. So it's a way of making things easier to see in a scan. So what's funny is that it needs two people to do it because the first has to stand there near the button because you've only got 6 minutes. So it's actually quite fun. It actually turns it into like a...
They've gamified.
It's gamified. They're like, okay, clock starts now. We've got 6 minutes to do all the scans and you usually need about 4 or 5 scans, different angles, whatever. So then you've got one person arranging you, the other person doing it. So I quite like it. It's quite gamified. And then what it means is
She
that
loves a high-pressure environment.
She's competitive.
with mammography alone, the likelihood of being able to diagnose cancer, depending on the density of the breast, is somewhere between 50 to 80%. With the contrast-enhanced mammogram, it's around 95%. So that's closer to an MRI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Does the sandwich press hurt?
it's not comfortable.
It's not
Imagine
nice.
putting your boobs in a sandwich press. It's that.
Okay.
It's very uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
painful, but it's just very uncomfortable.
And you've got to
right.
stand really still, and then it's sandwich press this way, and then it's sandwich press this way. But you know what? It's a lot less of a hassle
Yeah.
than having cancer.
Yeah.
So love to all our outlouders who are surviving or thriving or enduring breast cancer diagnosis and breast cancer treatment. I think we all agree that the earlier these things are picked up, the better. So
Well,
don't
I
put it
think
off. Give yourself a little treat. Make your appointment.
There's a rule that's at the beginning of every new season, you're meant to do a little breast examination in the shower. I remember that one. So we've just come into autumn. So this week, have a little feel is the other thing, because they say to check them
see
yourself.
if you pick something up. And if you do pick up a lump, don't go, oh, I'm not going to go and see a doctor because that'll make it true. I'd prefer not to know. Don't do that because it might be okay.
Peace of mind.
But peace of mind's important. And I should have said that what I used to have is then also an ultrasound, because often with dense breasts or younger breasts, that an ultrasound, you need the combination of the two. When I have the contrast one, I don't need the ultrasound, so it's much quicker as well. We'll put a link in the show notes to the story we did on Mamamia that explains it a little bit more.
Holly, do you have a funner
Way
recommendation?
more
than that?
fun.
Oh, good.
Skincare.
Oh, that's your little treat for booking your mammogram.
My little treat is nearly always skincare related because I do love me some skincare. I like bougie skincare. I like affordable skincare. I like all the skincare. Anyway, I've been using a new face oil lately that is so good.
Can I ask why you like a face? I don't like the feel of oils. Why do you do an oil, not a moisturizer? Or do you do both?
I do both, but I love face oils. I use one at night. I use an oil cleanser, and I've started using this one in the morning because it's a vitamin C face oil.
Have you always, or is it just as you get older and your face gets drier?
Yes, that. As I've gotten older and my face gotten drier. And I didn't used to understand, that face, I'd be like, oh, who wants to be oily? But that's not what they do. If you've got dehydrated skin, it absorbs quickly. And for my money, there's no better glow. You get a really good glow with a face oil. So I've got one I love that I use at night. It's the Face Oil Intense. So you know how one night, the Outlouders are like too much detail. You know how like one night you might do your exfoliation, your retinol or your vitamin A or whatever, and then the next night you might do hydration. I always will use a face oil on that night.
I do both. I use retinol every night.
I don't.
And then I put a heavy moisturizer over it after it's
I often do that.
absorbed.
So I often use a vitamin A and then a face oil, but I don't use vitamin A every night. I do like every other night or twice a week or whatever.
So what's this one?
Anyway, this one, back to the plot. I love vitamin C. Not everybody's skin can tolerate it, but it's made a really significant difference to my skin in the past year or so. Just brightening, glowiness, and not everybody can do it. But anyway, I've got a Sunday Riley expensive vitamin C moisturizer, but this is a Sunday Riley glow oil, and it's vitamin C and turmeric. And because it's got turmeric, I believe it's good for me. I don't know what that means.
Sounds good.
I like to put turmeric in curries, but
Probably
also
better than parsley on your face.
it's yellow, so, it goes with the vitamin C theme. This face oil is expensive. It's $67, right? From your Meccas or your Adores or whatever. It is so good that I'm like literally in the morning, when do I get to put my face oil on? And I generally put it on 10 minutes before I'm going to put my makeup on.
Yeah.
So it gets a good chance
you're
to
organised.
soak in. If I'm coming up to work, I'll do all this in the car.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone. The first set of lights I hit, I'll be like, face oil. And then the next set of lights I hit, I'll be foundation, only at the lights. Anyway, I love it so much. It's called Sunday Riley CEO Glow. It is expensive though. $67 is quite a lot for a face oil. My good friend Lee Campbell says that there is not a dupe, but a close to much more affordable one for a little treat.
Yeah.
An Asano vitamin C facial oil. Basically, vitamin C infused facial oils are in lots of places. But you can get this Asano one in your chemist warehouse or whatever for $14.99. And don't be afraid to try face oil, friends.
Like all our recos, we will put a link to this in the Out Loud newsletter. We will put a link in the show notes to sign up for the Out Loud newsletter, so you'll get all our recommendations every week straight to your inbox.
My recommendation is a podcast I listened to over the break. It is an episode of Sentimental Garbage about Robbie Williams with Dolly Alderton.
Oh, I love sentimental garbage.
And it's
Remind us, because I kind of forgot about sentimental garbage after we were all obsessed with their Sex and the City recaps.
Yeah. So Sentimental Garbage is hosted by Caroline O'Donoghue. She had a book out this year called The Rachel Incident that I recommended. Brilliant writer, brilliant podcaster, laugh out loud funny. Now, Sentimental Garbage, the premise is just brilliant because it's just women who love a thing. And the rule is you've got to get on and just love that thing hard for, in the case of this episode, 1 hour and 40 minutes about Robbie Williams, right?
Especially in Vicar Street, we had this thing where we were like, we just kept on bringing up the Robbie Williams documentary. And it was that kind of thing where it was funny to us at first, and then we kind of felt the audience get fed up with it.
They did get fed up with it.
And then we pushed it more, and then it was like everyone was in on the joke, kind of. Do you know what I mean? You have to sort of keep pushing past the point where everyone's annoyed by it.
And that is what I would say as well about the melody of Candy. Just at the moment when you feel like you're going to vomit because you can't listen to that fucking stupid song anymore, that's when you have to listen to it one more time and you realise it is the greatest song ever recorded.
The greatest song, the great Eurovision hit that never was.
So true.
It is laugh out loud. It is so warm and fuzzy. It is very like millennial Gen X.
Is it about the documentary or it's just about Robbie full stop?
Both. They watched the documentary and they got very, very taken by the documentary.
It is so good, that documentary.
I'm going to watch it.
Watch it. It's a bit strange. It's really great. I
Dolly-
think I recommended it last year
did.
because
You did.
it's
a bit too long.
It is. It's 3 episodes, I think, and it could have been 2. But it is very good illustration of that idea of man has everything, man is still miserable.
Well,
I have a question about the documentary before that.
Yeah.
Why, because the bits where he's talking to the camera between all the bits of footage, why is he naked in a bed?
Because I think he's rather eccentric.
Okay.
Well, it's
And
funny
he has
that
body
he's
image issues.
naked in a bed because Dolly Alderton tells a story of the time she accidentally met Robbie Williams and he was pretty much naked in a bed. And it's a fantastic story. But what they talk about is the experience of over-relating to celebrities, like watching a documentary where they're saying fame and attention, it's toxic, it came with its demons, and you're sitting there going, I relate. I did really well at work and I also have some demons. and their partners just keep looking at them going, how can you possibly relate to Robbie Williams this much?
And
they're
why
like,
doesn't our house doesn't look like that house, people? He lives in an amazing mansion in that doco.
Oh, it's so good. It will just bring you so much joy. That is a Sentimental Garbage episode. It came out in early January, so you might have to scroll a bit, but it's about Robbie Williams with Dolly Alderton.
Do you want daily Out Loud access? Why wouldn't you? We drop episodes every Tuesday and Thursday exclusively for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get us in your ears 5 days a week. And a huge thank you if you're already a subscriber. Time for our best and worst of the week. Don't worry, Out Louders, we haven't changed that up. It's the part of the show, and it's the part of the week, in fact, where we look back and look at the highs and the lows. I'm going to start with a low. That's the rule. We always start with a low. I used to have to remind you every single week, but after about 4 or 5 years, you pretty much have got it. Because we want to end on a high note, right? So my low of the week was really a spate of about 12 hours on Saturday. It began with my dog being sick. She was vomiting. Didn't have a diarrhea, vomiting a lot. Took her to the vet. The vet's like, enlarged pancreas, not sure, could be an obstruction. We're about to close. You might have to take her to the vet hospital, the overnight hospital, if she gets worse. So we were like, okay, took her home.
Poor puppy.
She's not well. Then my son gets back from cricket, broke his collarbone.
Oh, ouch.
It's just not a contact sport.
It shouldn't be a contact sport. So he was going to grab a catch in the field and another guy was also going to grab a catch. Here's a tip. Apparently, when you're going for a catch, you're meant to call mine. Neither of them called mine. So they collided. One boy got concussion. My son broke his collarbone.
Ouch.
Very painful. Very, very painful.
And there's very little you can do about it.
Very little. Doesn't need surgery, so that's the good. It was a clean break. So he got home, couldn't move, waiting for the painkillers to kick in. I'm like, we have to cut off his shirt because he couldn't get his arm out of it. So I've got the scissors trying to cut his shirt.
Crisis.
I love a crisis. I get very focused. I'm cutting his shirt off. Cut his shirt off. My husband's dealing with him, waiting for the painkillers to kick in, on the phone to the doctor. I'm like, I better take the dog outside to just see if she's like not dead, because I was watching her and the vet was like, if she gets lethargic or like in a coma, bad sign, take her to the hospital.
Darling.
So I took her outside. She was like walking so gingerly. She didn't even want to go outside, but I thought, let's not do anything in the house. She took a few steps outside and then she had what seemed to be like a seizure. She just like she'd been electrocuted, and she just like was just like running as if she was running away from herself. And then she tried to run inside and she was limping. She'd hurt her foot. She was limping. She went inside and we're like, what's going on? My daughter's girlfriend went outside and discovered she'd stepped on a bee.
Oh.
The dog had stepped. She found a little bee carcass with no sting. So then we had to try and pick her up, put her upside down. My husband, after we just cut the thing, he had to get the tweezers. We had someone's phone shining on it, had to get the stinger out. We call the vet. Anyway, that night she starts vomiting again. So I ended up at the vet hospital where she was for 3 days. It cost $7,000.
Oh, my God.
And in the end, she didn't have a bowel obstruction. It was Mardi Gras night. Not that I was going to Mardi Gras, but I spent it in the vet hospital until about midnight. They're so lovely there. Another little chihuahua came in, bee stung it in the tongue.
Oh, no.
All sorts of things happen. But it's different to an emergency room where you kind of can't ask. At the vet hospital emergency, you can just go, oh, what happened?
Yes.
So anyway, we were there till really late. She's fine. Had to spend a couple of days in there on IV drips. Didn't have an obstruction. So it seems like she just ate something that didn't agree with her. Very expensive. My best.
Yikes.
That was my 12 hours
that
on
story.
Saturday.
I'm like, not
My
good.
best. Like I was just
It's just
laughing.
done okay, by the way.
By the time she stepped on the bee, I was actually hysterically laughing because it just got really
The family
silly.
group chat was just, it was
Yeah,
going,
it was
and
going off.
I said to Luca, we're cutting them loose, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this family
It's so
ruin my
true.
Saturday because
Yeah.
there's too much
Yeah,
going
and I'm
on.
like, Jessie, do you have a pregnancy pillow so that he can sleep better? My best is pet insurance.
So we had just cancelled Chili's pet insurance, and on
Okay.
Saturday night I saw Luca frantically being like, I think maybe Chili should get
Don't
pet insurance.
Yes.
ever, if you can possibly afford it, get pet insurance. Now, depending on what type of dog you have, they don't always cover everything. Of the like $7,000 that it cost, I think the gap was about $1,000 that we had to pay, which was still a very expensive
Yeah.
weekend for a dodgy
Jesus Christ.
a dodgy
Sore
pair of
tummy.
underpants
Yeah.
that she probably ate. But anyway, health insurance could have been a lot worse. There we go.
My worst is that postpartum, I've got my period back, right? And I hadn't had a period in more than a year.
Do you remember where to put the tampon?
Okay, it's
They
very
never come back really. It's never like they don't come back in the
a
gentle
normal way.
No,
No.
they don't come back like that.
I had been warned. Everyone had warned me.
They're not like,
Tsunami.
hi, remember us? They're like, rah,
Yes,
we're back.
I've been saving up for you. That's what they're saying, right?
Wow.
It's like it's just been growing in me, and now they're like, finally, we can release. Anyway, I keep saying I think I have that disease where you become crazy, which is not how you should speak
No,
about
that's
this
very
disease.
inappropriate.
It's called
very inappropriate.
I think it's called premenstrual dysphoria. I once wrote a story on that.
Yes, PMDD.
Yeah, it's
I
when you
think.
get
Rage.
Yeah, it's like you get mentally unwell for
Yes.
a time.
So I looked it up. It causes severe irritability, depression, or anxiety in the week or two before your period starts. Now,
It's a long time.
it's just, I've had 2 periods, and twice I have started the biggest fights with Luca of our relationship.
Oh, wow.
It's been the most bizarre experience because I've gone, don't say that. It's unnecessary to say that. Don't say that. And then it's falling out of my mouth. And I'm like, why is this being said? Why is this? Why am I saying this?
Yeah, correct.
And I hear myself
Hard
saying
relate.
it and I see him get hurt. And I'm like, oh, why is this happening? And then I, afterwards,
Put those words back in. Oops,
yes.
Too late.
And then once the period comes, it's like I can see clearly again. It's everything. It's back pain, it's
Oh, wow.
headaches, it's terrible period pain. But the mood thing,
Do you think you've just forgotten?
I think I never realised the
How
effect on my mood until
awful.
I went a year without it.
Yeah, right.
And I was so stable. I can't believe the effect on my mental health. My best is that this week I took Cousin Simon to Anne Juliet,
Oh.
the musical, right? There were a bunch of Mamamia people and we got a bit of the VIP treatment. And at intermission, a few girls from Mamamia said, you know, we've got a special room with a roped off red thing. You can come and get a drink, a choc top, and we have our own toilet. Anyway, so I go, Simon, come in. He couldn't even deal with the fact he got a private room at the Lyric Theatre.
Which is his happy
amazing.
place.
There were free programs. free programs. He just got, and they said, you can get a what type of choc top would you like? Anyway.
All of them.
All of them. He was just putting them in his pockets, just like everywhere. All week he's been going special room. Like that really made his day. Now, special room wasn't even the best bit. This is, I reckon, one of the best musicals I've ever seen.
I don't know anything about
what the hell is it?
It is, you both would love it. So it's on in Sydney at the moment. It's on till like July. And Juliet is Romeo and Juliet, bit of a downer.
Not a happy play.
You know, Matilda, after watching the Titanic, Matilda became obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio. Who hasn't been there?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we watched the young Leo. We watched Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
She thought it was a downer.
It was a real downer. So
Debbie Downer.
what if Juliet didn't die?
Yeah.
And what if she had a sequel? And what if William Shakespeare's wife, Anne, wrote it?
What if Juliet didn't die? I mean, really, that should almost be the start of the play.
Because she loved Juliet.
Oh, I like that.
And she was like, stop killing these women. Why would she kill herself just because Romeo did? Anyway, Anne Hathaway, that's who it is. William Shakespeare is played by one Rob Mills of Australian.
What do you mean,
Orphan.
Anne Hathaway? What's she got to do with
William
it?
Shakespeare's wife was called Anne Hathaway. Oh, the original Anne Hathaway.
I was like,
she wasn't in A Devil Wears Prada.
Claire Danes in that Baz Luhrmann film.
So Anne Hathaway and Casey Donovan's in it. And the thing is, okay, so all of the songs in this musical are by a guy named Max Martin, who is a very famous songwriter.
Yeah.
And Max Martin has written every song you've ever heard.
Like what?
Like everything by the Backstreet Boys, by Britney Spears, by Pink, by Katy Perry, everything. And someone said, you should write a musical because you've got the rights to all this. And this guy who wrote Schitt's Creek, the show.
Daniel Levy.
Yeah. No. He was
one.
in the right. He's a Canadian guy who his name is David West Reed.
Well,
he was
scratch
tasked with writing a play with all of Max Martin's songs. Anyway, he hits his head on a kitchen cabinet and he gets post-concussion syndrome. And he has to lay down nonstop.
Is this a true story or part of the musical?
This is a true story. So he hits his head.
The writer.
And then what he did was he laid in bed playing Max Martin songs for days until it came to him.
Oh, my
the
God.
Song, the thing of Anne Juliet. So good. And so every song is like, they're going to do the vows at a wedding or whatever, and it's Backstreet Boys lyrics, and it's called a jukebox musical. So every single song you will love. It is for people.
So Moulin Rouge was that?
Yes, exactly. It is for people who aren't into musicals. It's got
But
like
love pop
Raw
songs.
by Katy Perry. Oh my God, it's amazing. Everyone gets up and dances.
Go.
It's
that
so
sounds
good.
super
It's
fun.
so feminist, and the whole plot. This isn't spoiling anything. It's a queer love story. It's Mardi Gras. It's like it's so well
that's
timed with
lovely.
everything. So fresh. You will absolutely love it. And Simon just had the night of his life.
Oh, my God. All right. I so want to go to that.
So good.
Okay. You know how you always say, Mia, what a wonderful experience it was watching your son fall in love?
Yeah.
I watched my dog fall in love over the past few weeks.
Was that as good?
No, sucked. Because I may have mentioned to all of you that I've just had my best old friend from England visiting, Lindsay and her husband Ian, and they came and stayed with us down the coast for a week. Now, Tuna, my beautiful dog, is a bit of an anxious puppy. And sometimes she doesn't like people and she barks at them every time she sees them, just like, you again, you again.
Yeah.
And I was really worried that she wouldn't like them and it would be hard because then they wouldn't like her because nobody likes a dog that's barking at them, as we know. Tuna, it was like she just knew that these were special people. And she loved Lindsay and Ian so hard and they loved her back. And so they took her for walks, and normally no one really takes her for walks except for me and Brent. Like, we take her for walks every day, but she doesn't like other people doing it. She'd put her little head on Ian's shoulder.
Oh my
She'd go and give them
gosh.
kisses every morning. She just loved them. And that was great, right? But then they left. And now my worst is that my dog is pining for her,
Oh, wow.
her new favourite people. And me and Brent are a bit like, what are you doing here?
And you can't even explain to her where they've gone.
No.
They can't do FaceTime.
She's
Can't
like
even
a
text
baby
them.
that has object permanence. She's like, and I guess
Yes.
they're dead.
Yeah,
I guess
correct.
that's over. So Tuna's depressed. I've got a depressed dog mooching around the house with her head on her little paws.
At least it's free.
Where are those people with the funny accents who really, really liked me? My best is that I got my hair did. I'm
Yes,
very
you
beauty
did.
today, aren't I? I've done my face oil, but I've been feeling a bit blur. lately. I have been telling you all how I haven't been sleeping and everything, and I've been a bit down. And then Mia, who is the queen of tough love, it's one of the many things I love about her. She's like, this hair shit. It's
too much.
Come on.
It's too
much. You need to change it. You're going to feel better if you change it. Go to the hairdresser.
Yep.
Sort your life out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm too busy to go to the hairdresser.
I'm like, this is Elle. She does my hair. She's going to do yours.
I went to
She's English
Mia's
like you.
hairdresser and I got keratin. And wavy-haired ladies, my God.
But you also got layers and a cut.
Yeah, I got a really good cut. I've got really good layers. We'll see what that looks like when the keratin, like the way it works, keratin, is you get it done. I have had it done before years ago. It looks poker straight, the way that it looks right now while it's in, and then you wash it. But what stays is the smoothness. So some volume and body comes back, but the smoothness stays. You can get out of the shower when you've had keratin and just let your wavy hair dry.
How long does it last?
3 to 6 months.
I want some highlights in there as well. When can we do those?
I can do those. She's directing my hair. I can do those 2 weeks after the keratin, Mia. So you can't do it at the same time. Keratin and colour don't like each other.
Okay.
So
have you made another appointment?
I might do that if you'd like me to do that. So Mia's directing my hair. It's like an experiment.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. But I am feeling today,
You look
feel
amazing.
$1 million with my shorter,
Yeah.
straight hair. Sometimes you just need a change.
Do you know what? And I briefed because I happened, just by coincidence, I happened to have the appointment before Holly.
That's not
right?
coincidence.
No,
You
no,
went
it
and
really
you're
was
in Elle's
coincidence. And so-
ear telling her what you wanted.
Before Holly even arrived, I'd briefed Elle and I said, here's how she's feeling. I need to give the feeling context behind this haircut because it was the first time of her cutting your hair. She's an out louder. She listens to the show. I think she might have been a bit nervous. She didn't say that, but like, you know, you're Holly Wainwright. You've got this amazing curtain of virgin hair that had never really
yeah.
been cut like Rapunzel. Certainly never coloured, which is you're a freak of nature. So anyway, I said to her, if she doesn't leave here looking different, she's going to feel sad. She might not be able to tell you what she wants. And if anything, she might err on the side of, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but make sure she looks different because that's what she needs from that haircut. Was I right?
She was right. Mia was right. Don't you hate how she's right?
And yeah, what am I going to do with my hair?
What are we doing with you? You're next up for Elle. I think you want to be Steph Claire Smith, don't you?
I do.
Really soon, we're all going to, Mia's just going to have directed us. We're going to be coming in like a mixture
same.
of like androgynous baggy suits and sequin tutus and like my hair's going to be.
Because Holly and I have no backbone about our looks or no real opinions.
No.
So we're happy to just be directed. But I want to be.
I think your hair could go a bit blunt, Jessie.
Yeah.
Like, I think we could come up
I want to
above the
be
shoulders.
Steph Claire Smith, but I'm not Steph Claire Smith.
I'm that awful person in the hairdressers though who always just says, I don't know, do what you think.
And that's
And
when
then
you
you
walk
need-
out feeling disappointed because they never want to go too far.
Yeah, you would need a hairdresser of some confidence to deal with that. Anyway, so my best was hair. Worst is my pining puppy. That's it.
Little treats.
A little treat.
The little treat.
Before we go, we wanted to end on a little treat because we like the idea of a little treat, but sometimes you can't even think of a little treat. You're like, I want one, but I don't want it to be extremely expensive.
And I like hearing about other people's little treats.
Yeah, me too.
And also what they've had a little treat for because that's very
important.
part of it.
Outlouders, please jump in the Facebook group and tell us your little treat. We'll start a thread because we just really like seeing them. But we're going to end on Angela's because she said that after she finishes the evening kitchen cleanup every night, which everyone knows, you're too tired and you go, I should wake up in the morning and have it clean, but I don't want to. Her little treat is playing some Wordle.
Oh, I love
I forgot about Wordle.
Brent and I do Wordle.
Really?
And if we're apart, we do it and then send each
Every
other the
night
thing.
you do it.
We usually do it in the evening, yes, we do. It's a togetherness thing. It's annoying if he ever gets it before me.
Oh, so you do it not together.
Not together. Like we both do it
So it's
separately.
there's competition involved.
Yeah.
I'll add to that a real little treat for me lately has been whenever I'm sitting with a group of friends on the weekend, lull in conversation, I say, come on, let's do the good weekend quiz.
Yeah.
And that's always a real good time.
Yeah, we always do that too.
It's very
Quizzes are good.
inclusive.
Outlouders, keep sending us your little treats on Facebook or Instagram. Yesterday, we held an emergency meeting. I know a lot of you have been wanting to know what Holly thinks about the photos of Kate Middleton that were released. She has a lot of thoughts, as do Jessie and I.
We had a bit of an argument about that.
We did.
didn't agree about them. Here's a little taste of what we spoke about.
TMZ published images of Princess of Wales. It's the first time she's been photographed since December in a car with her mother near Windsor Castle. She is in the front seat. She is wearing sunglasses certainly appears to be her. There are some theories it's not, but it certainly appears to be her. No British papers are running these images. So who are the images for?
When I looked more closely, it's very staged. It says that she's in a car wearing sunglasses, driving somewhere. She's not bedridden. She's not unconscious. She's in the world. She's doing exactly as the palace has said. And a link to that episode will be in the show notes.
Thank you for listening to us on our slightly chaotic Friday. We have really enjoyed it and talking to you all week on Australia's #1 news and pop culture show. This episode was produced by Emeline Gazilas. The assistant producer is Tahli Blackman, and we've had audio production from Leah Porgess. We'll see you next week, friends.
Bye.
Bye.
Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do it. There's a link in the episode description.